BC said, no, crime's, I said, crime is through the roof. He said, no, sir, it's down, crime is down. The next day they release it. I said, it's up 45%. And it's up. We have tremendous migrant crime. If you look at just that, it's been a disaster, a very dangerous crime. It's terrible what's happened at our border, what they've done to our country. At the border, you know, Mike, I think it's interesting to say because every poll has inflation and the economy is the number one thing. And third is the border. I don't think it's that. I think inflation's horrible. It's destroying people. It's a country buster. But I don't think it's inflation. I don't think it's the economy. I think the number one thing is the border, that millions of people are being sent into our country. It was announced last week, you saw that, by the Border Patrol, which, by the way, endorsed me. They endorsed me so nicely. They've endorsed me every year, even though they're not supposed to. You know, I think they're not supposed to, and they said, we have to do what we have to do. But we had the best border ever in the history of our country, and now we have the worst border in the history of the world. This is the worst border. There's never been a border like this. They have open border. Anybody can come in. When I heard they were going to do that, you know, we built 5 on the Senate races. And in those cases, thank you. 171 miles of wall. We had another 200 miles, far more than I said I was going to build. We had another 200 miles that was going to be, could have been put up in 3 weeks. It was all there, laying there, waiting to be lifted. Could have been put up in 3 to 4 weeks. And they said, we don't want to do it. And I said, wow, that's, and thank you, Susan. Look at it, it's strange. If they don't want to do it, that means they must really want open borders. But I can't imagine wanting open borders. Who would want open borders? But they want open borders. Who would want men playing in women's sports? They want it. Who would want transgender operations for almost everybody in the world? They want them. This is a sick group of people, I'm telling you. And there's a great evilness. You know, we want to come together as a country, but there's a lot of evil there. There's a lot of, you'd say, why do they want it? And so there's basically 3 reasons. Number one is they're stupid, which they're not, because I can tell you in Lancaster County, which we know very well, they found 2,600 fake voter registrations. You heard that? It's a big story. Well, burning boxes. Where is it now? I think we have a very good DA, and he's probably going to do his thing, and I hope he will, but it's all written by the same hand. Okay, maybe that's just coincidence. Maybe everybody has exactly the same handwriting, right? So we just found that. That was one. And then we have in York, I remember York, easy to remember because I used to lift weights for about a week. It's good. Then I realized I don't want to do it. I realized I don't like it, Mike. And York was the barbells and all that stuff. I think that's moved to China, along with a lot of other things. Well, maybe we'll bring it back. We're going to tariff the hell out of them. We'll bring it back. I'd love to bring it back. No, it's I like to build things. So I'm building a gym. I'm building this gorgeous gym in my house, in the basement of my parents' house, and I'm putting it up. And I couldn't sleep at night. I was so excited. It was really beautiful. I'm really good at that. And then the barbells came and I said, oh, this was no fun. I liked building the place. After it was built, they sat there for a long time. But I remember they came from York, PA, right? And it was big stuff. But the other reason, I mean, if you think, the other reason would be that they really would like to sign these people up to vote, right? And that's crazy. And the third reason would be they hate our country. Because who would want to have millions of people coming into our country? Many of them are murderers. Many of them are terrorists. Many of them are gang members from the street MS-13 and almost worse. You know, the Venezuelan gangs are almost worse. And these countries are taking their prisons and they're taking their prison population, putting them in buses and bringing them to our border. Venezuela's got half their prison population has been brought to the United States of America and dumped like we're a garbage can for their people. And these are rough prisoners. These are really rough people. These are not people that you want to say, oh, gee, let's have dinner tomorrow night. These people are tough and mean. And They're coming into our country by the hundreds of thousands. And we have over 21 million people in 3.5 years. If they ever got possession, and we have a real problem. We have to take these criminals out of this country. We have to deport these criminals, and we're going to do it. And we're going to do it. And I know this is very much a senior oriented little meeting, but Mike and I were talking. I think this is the biggest senior issue. This is the biggest issue we have. They're destroying our country. They're ruining our country. You're not going to be able to walk outside anymore. And they're depositing them. So they were saying, Kamala was saying yesterday, no, I really think walls are fine. Well, for her whole life, walls are, forget it. And the only two things, remember, that work without obsolescence are walls and wheels, right? And walls work. And they worked with us, and they worked brilliantly with us. And she was against the wall. She voted against it. She sued us to try and have it taken down as we were building it. It was very hard to get approval. And what I did is I just said, this is crazy, because I rebuilt the entire military, the entire U.S. military. They shouldn't have given a lot of it to Afghanistan. They gave a big chunk to Afghanistan in the most embarrassing moment. But we rebuilt the entire military. We're going to do it a little bit again because they've given a lot of it away. We defeated ISIS. We did all of these things. We got you the largest tax cut in the history of our country, larger even than Ronald Reagan's tax cut, the largest regulation cuts. We had the best economy in the history of our country. We did so many things. And what we want to do is we want to make it's safe for everybody, for seniors. This is a big senior issue, but for seniors and all, these are people these are high-end criminals. They have 629,000, all released by everyone. These numbers were given to us by Border Patrol. They never did it before either. They never talked about specifically. They'd say a lot of people coming in, but they were given to us by Border Patrol. Hundreds of thousands of high-end criminals are released, and she's the border czar. She was put there by Sleepy Joe Biden, and then he went back to sleep. He said, "Oh, now it's in good shape." And when they endorsed me, the question was asked of the top person who made a beautiful speech, Paul. I would call them all the time. I'd call them, "How we doing on the border?" Once a week, twice a week. I just I was the president, and they're destroying our country. And these guys are great. They want to do their job, but they're sort of not but I let them do their job. That's why we got the lowest number. But she said that, I said, "Did she call you often?" "No." "Oh, in 3.5 years, how many times did she call?" Thinking, it'd be dozens. She never called. I said, "Wait a minute, she's the border czar. She's the one that's in charge of the border. She was put there by Biden. And she never called. No, sir, she never called one time. And when they endorsed me, they said he's the greatest president on the border, but he's the greatest president overall that we've ever had. I said, Mike, does that include? I said to her, they said he's the greatest president we've ever had. And then one of them said, "Sir, you're the greatest president of my lifetime." I said, "I like the first one more that we've ever had." I said, "So, greatest president that we've ever had." I said, "Does that include Abe Lincoln?" "Yes, sir." "Does that include George Washington?" "Yes, sir." I said, "That's good, right?" But they also said, more importantly for purposes of this, they said the best border president, and without question, that I was that. I was that. So we're going to talk about some other things that frankly, in many cases, are a lot less interesting, because this is a big thing and it's very interesting. We had some people over at Mar-a-Lago today, and we had a press conference, and we had a mother who lost her beautiful 12-year-old daughter to a illegal migrant that came in, should have never been in the country. And we have them by the thousands. Laken Riley, so many people, Laken Riley from Georgia. I could name 30 of them right now, and I've gotten to know in many cases the parents, they're just devastated. I don't know if they ever recover. I'm not sure that you ever recover from that, Mike, what they're going through. And I meet these people, and they're just devastated. And it's all because they have an open border policy. People come into our country from places unknown, and they just walk in. They just walk right through everybody. And nobody wants this. Nobody can want this. How do you win an election with this? You only can win elections if you cheat with this. Who wants that? Who wants all the stuff that they do? All the transgender stuff, all of the woke military. We don't have a woke military. Let me tell you, we have a great military. They knocked out ISIS in a matter of weeks. When I was there, they said it was going to take five years. It took about 4 weeks. And they'll never be woke, by the way. These are people, I got to know them very well. These are not woke people. You have guys like Milley on the top who should have been fired immediately. No, I mean, he should have been fired. Whoever was involved with Afghanistan in that horrible period of time, that horrible day, but it was a little more than a day, where we lost 13 great soldiers. They never talk about the ones that lost the arms, the legs, the face was obliterated. They never talk about them. They act like, oh, this is fine. It's not fine. We had many people lost their legs, and many people died, and many people on the other side died. I count them too. I mean, people on the other side, hundreds of people died that day, and it should have never taken place. We gave up Bagram. When you leave, you take the soldiers out last. You don't take the soldiers. They took the soldiers out first. Our soldiers came out first, and it was totally just a horrible situation. And I think Mike Putin saw that, and he said, well, these people, they're a paper tiger. Let's go into Ukraine. I know Putin would never have done it if I was president. Not even a chance. No, it's not a chance. I used to talk to him about, don't do it, Vladimir, don't do it. I know it was the apple of his eye. I'd say, don't do it, Vladimir, don't do it. Oh, this is going to be terrible, Vladimir, if you do that. Not going to be good. You know, don't forget, I ended their pipeline, Nord Stream 2. Nobody ever heard of Nord Stream 2 until I came along. They were building the biggest pipeline in the world to Germany and all over Europe. And I said, no, you're not going to do it. You mean we're defending you from Russia and you're paying Russia billions of dollars a month for oil and gas? We're not going to do that. I mean, it's so ridiculous under NATO. And we stopped it. And then Biden comes in, he approved it, but he stopped the Keystone pipeline, which we needed. That's our pipeline. He stopped that, but he approved. And then they say, Trump wasn't that tough on Russia. I was so tough on Russia. It was the biggest project they've ever had. I stopped it. And so we have a country that's been run by fools. It's been run by stupid people. Low IQ individuals. They really are. They're low IQ. He was low IQ. Biden was a low IQ guy 35 years ago. He was a low IQ guy when he went to school, when he went to college. He was always a low IQ guy, but he put somebody in who's actually worse than him. And if we put her in office, this country's finished. I really believe it. This country is finished. One of the reasons the stock market's going up, Scott Bessent, who's one of the biggest, most respected people on Wall Street, he's a very brilliant guy. Of course, if he said differently, I probably wouldn't be saying this. But he said the only reason the stock market's going up is because everybody on Wall Street thinks that Trump is going to win the election. I think there's truth. So we have to keep you safe. In addition, from a medical standpoint, Mike, we have to keep them safe physically from these people that are coming in. And we're going to do I don't like doing this, but we're going to do the largest deportation in the history of our country. We're going to get all of these criminals out. And it's not going to be easy. And, you know, I say that, and you know who has the record? Dwight Eisenhower. And I call him a moderate, but he hated to see people coming in from other countries and violating our borders. He was right, but he was a very big deporter. He deported people when they walked into our country. He'd take them out, and he has the record. And I don't. It's not a record that I want either. We all have a heart, but we have no choice. Now you have also, and you also have others, and we'll also finish that. No, we're going to put up sections of the wall that would have been put up in a matter of weeks. It could have. You know what they did with this wall? Much of it they sold for 5 cents on the dollar for scrap metal. And we're going to have to buy it again, but we're not going to pay 5 cents. We're going to pay a lot. It was very expensive. This was a wall designed specifically for it. In fact, I often talk about it. I never liked the panel on top. You know what it was called? An anti-climb panel. It looked beautiful when you had but when you put the panel on top, it didn't look as good. And I said, why do you do that? They said, it's anti-climb. I said, I don't believe it is. And we actually had mountain climbers and drug climbers. We got a couple of them. It's unbelievable. They can carry a 100-pound sack on their back, but they can go up that thing. You and I could never do that, I think. You and I could. No, they go up like it's nothing. And actually, the anti-climb panel worked. So I said, good. So it was built specifically out of steel, concrete, and rebar, and hardened steel, very hardened concrete. So we built so many miles of it, and it worked. And we had the best. And by the way, Mexico did pay. They paid a big price. They weren't able to pay for the wall, but they gave us tens of thousands of soldiers. I said to the president, you're letting these people into our country. You have to give us soldiers to protect us while we're building the wall. I can't do that. I can't do that. I said, if you can't do that, then I'm going to put tariffs on every product that you make, and we're going to charge you 25% back. And he said to me, like I said, I'd love to do that. That's what happened. Millions and millions, maybe billions, but millions and millions of dollars they spent on, they gave us, and I said, free. I don't want to pay for your soldiers. I want it free because they're coming through your country into our country. And we did a lot of things. We did great things. And very important was the rebuilding of our military. But in part of the rebuilding, I said, look, this is an invasion into our country because you couldn't deal with Congress. You had guys like Mitch McConnell and others that were just absolutely terrible. I tell you, he can be Republican. He can be, I'm a person that says it like it is. And guys that were really not on our side very much. And I will tell you, I said, this is an invasion of our country. I'm going to take it out of the military because the military had a tremendous, I was able to get tremendous amounts of money to rebuild our military. We have jets that were 50 years old. Mike would often hear stories where you had the bombers where the grandfather flew the plane, the son flew the plane, and then the grandchild was flying the plane. The same plane. It was like so old. And we rebuilt almost our entire military. We're going to be upgrading that. So we did a lot of things, and we did a lot of things medically. One thing I'd like to talk about is right to try. So do you know what that is? I hope nobody in the room needs it. But we have the best labs, doctors, technicians, but our laboratories are the best for new medicines and everything. They're really amazing. But you can't get it approved. I mean, and rightfully, you can't get it by the FDA. They can't stand me, by the way. I used to push them. I got it down from 12 years to 5 years, but they need certain times. I mean, they do need, I want everything to be rushed, but you can't necessarily do that. But we have a situation where we have things that are really good. We're pretty sure they work. They may not, but we're pretty sure they work. And I said, why isn't it, if a person's terminally ill, why can't they use this stuff that may or may not work? Sir, it's been going on 48 years. They couldn't get it worked out. The country didn't want it because our country would be sued. The insurance companies definitely didn't want it. The labs didn't want it because they didn't want a terminally ill person to be using something that's going to be like show badly, where they have to put it down, they have to do their lists, and they don't want to be, they call it a list. They didn't want to be on the list. Somebody's terminally ill and dies and using the medicine, and I understand that. So I got everybody in a room, every one of the doctors, the labs, the insurance companies, and even the country representatives, the Justice Department, they all came in because they couldn't get it done. I said, here's what we do. Somebody can use it. And these people were going all over the world. They were going to Asia, they were going to Europe. If they had money, and they would get scammed many times, but they'd go all over the world. We couldn't do it here. And most of them, though, had no money, and they'd go home and they'd die. I'd say, look, if somebody's terminally ill, I want to give them a shot at life. It's a great feeling, at least. At least they can say, well, I've got something, and maybe it'll work, and maybe it won't. But what, the expression, what the hell do we have to lose? Somebody's terminally ill. Why? They were saying, we'll be sued. I said, you're not going to be sued. So we worked out, and it didn't take that long. After 48 years, within a period of about a month, and then I got it approved by Congress, believe it or not, we could get things done. But think of this, we got it approved, and everybody agreed. Anybody that signed that document, you wouldn't sue anybody. If something happened to your family, the family would sign, the person would sign. No liability for anybody, and you have the right to try. We have saved thousands and thousands of people, and it's very interesting. Some of the biggest some of the biggest proponents of it now are the people that fought it the hardest to get it, like the laboratories, the medical companies, because it actually showed that it worked. People are terminally ill, and in many cases, they came back, they had absolutely no problems, they have no disease, they have no anything. It's called Right to Try. We did that. Nobody thought we could get it approved. We got it approved. They signed a waiver of liability, and which in business you sort of do. But I got everybody into a room. I said, we got to do this. And we've used, I have a person who works for me was saved because of that. A very great person that works for me was saved because of Right to Try. There was no medicine. There was nothing was going to work, but there was a space age something material, a medicine that they were going to use and that they did use. And it saved anyway. It saved millions of lives, all these different things that they're developing. And in some cases, it doesn't work. But in many cases, it does. I would say in many more cases, it does. So, Mike, we saved thousands and thousands of lives. And again, I hope nobody in this room needs it. But it's awfully good. It's awfully good. At least it gives you a hell of a shot. And it turned out to be really a benefit. So I'd like to ask Mike to now take over and go around the room. I'd love to hear.